RBA lifting the cash rate 25 basis points, takes it now to 4.1%. That's the highest we've seen since April 2012. Sky News business editor Ross Greenwood joins me now. We saw that minimum wage decision, Ross, last week. We've got the monthly inflation still way outside the target band. Given they want to get us down to sort of 2 to 3%, we're well north of that. We've got a lot more pain to come, surely.
Yeah, that's the feeling, because if you thought about the one sentence that Philip Lowe did not change today, and that was the outlook that there could be more rate rises to come to try and quell the inflation. And as you point out, it's not just that wages are rising faster than anticipated, and you've got more pressure that will come from public servants' wage claims that will come in the second half of this year. But on top of that, then also inflation has escaped out to the services industry, which is where it becomes sticky, and therefore you need more rate rises and potentially more damage to the economy to actually try and get this inflation rate back down. You can see here the monthly indicator having this sort of seemingly been on the way down from its peak in December last year to suddenly pop back up to 6.8%. That, I think, spooked the Reserve Bank board, and certainly when it saw that wages case come out on Friday, that again would have been the situation. But you pointed out about people at home with mortgages. Well, just think about this. A person with an average typical mortgage in Australia, $750,000, over the cumulative effect of those 12 rate rises is now $20,000 a year after tax worse off. So if that person is on median wages, which are somewhere between $90,000 and $100,000 right now, we're talking close on 20% of their wage disappearing, and that's even after tax, of course, money that's got to go, as compared with where they were 18 months ago before these rate rises started. And that's where the hurt comes for some in our community. Not all, because people are still out there buying houses like crazy over the weekend, but it is certainly an indication of the hurt that is still to come inside our economy.
I made the point with Andrew, Phil Lowe is copped criticism, fair enough, certainly for making promises he didn't keep about not raising rates, etc. But I mean, he's got one lever, and he only impacts with that one lever of the cash rate a third of Australians, those with a mortgage, not those who own their home and not directly those who rent. Whereas the government's got a raft of levers that impact on inflation. And they're going the other way. The 15% wage hike for aged care workers, this minimum wage lift the other day, there are inflationary budget handouts, energy prices, etc., where they've got a heavy hand of government policy. Yet they want to blame everybody else. And I think this is where not enough attention's on what the government's doing to keep inflation spiking.
And if you think about Phil Lowe last week in the Senate estimates, and the one thing that he said that is forcing interest rates up in Australia right now and inflation is the lack of productivity. Now, that goes squarely to government. And it doesn't matter whether you've been in government for 12 months or whether you've been in government for 3 years. The fact of the matter is that productivity is the thing that you control. And that goes to the heart of trying to create the types of policies which really allow business to get on and employ people and to invest and to really have workers have more of their own pay in their own pocket and to make it easier for them to do their work and to get to work and all that sort of stuff. So all of that really lies at the foot of government. And if there's one thing this government continues to have to answer, it is what are you doing to raise productivity in this country? And even say, for example, the industrial relations bill that came in today, which basically had industry-wide bargaining as distinct from enterprise bargaining, well, that again is going to be hidebound in red tape, which is going to again engulf business and make it harder to do business. Have a look at Dan Andrews in Victoria raising payroll tax. Again, another thing which makes it harder to employ people. So all of these things are actually pulling back our productivity, not advancing it, as Philip Lowe says is needed if we really are to take a bit of the sting out of inflation and out of these interest rates.
And it's not just our mortgage either, it's what we're paying for power that flows through to business and obviously everything that gets to us on the shelf. Alinta Chief Executive Jeff Dimery said today the pace of renewables not keeping up with demand. He said Snowy 2.0, it's delayed. VNI West is the big transmission line in Victoria. Well, it won't be there until 2031. 3 years after your lawn is shut down. We've got the issues obviously with the RARing. The whole transition, he says, is not lining up. We're so far off track. Add in the comments from Matthew Warren today, and I played them at the top of the show. This is going off the rails, isn't it?
It really is becoming increasingly difficult. I've been speaking with people in the past week or so who are leaders in the renewable space. They're the big investors in renewables. And effectively, they're saying that Australia is not on track to meet its 2030 zero net emissions targets. We'll just miss them. And effectively, that's because we are way behind on the transmission lines. We're way behind in regards to rolling out the renewable energy. And as a result, the fundamental issue is going to be at some point, somebody's going to have to make a pragmatic decision to keep some of these coal-fired power stations open for longer. You might not want to do it, you might not like doing it, but you will have to do it simply because you cannot have the other consequences, which is either A, spiking power prices for all of Australia, industry walking out the door, and really the prospect of blackouts or brownouts in the heaviest using days in summer and winter.